You know that specific kind of silence. It's 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. You're sitting on the same couch you've shared for 2 years. He's scrolling through his phone, thumb moving rhythmically, eyes glazed over. You're staring at the TV, but you haven't heard a word of the show in 20 minutes. The air feels thick, heavy, like walking through water. And suddenly, a cold realization hits your stomach. You are physically 3 feet away from him, but emotionally, you are on different planets. Your brain starts racing. The thoughts come fast and sharp. Did I say something wrong? Is he bored of me? Why do I feel so lonely when I'm right next to him? Am I asking for too much? You want to reach out, to touch his arm, to ask, "Are we okay?" But you don't. Because last time you asked, he pulled away. He said you were overthinking. He said he just needed space. So now, you sit there, frozen, waiting for him to come back to you. Here is the truth that no one tells you. He isn't pulling away because he doesn't care. He's pulling away because he cares too much, and his nervous system is screaming that it's unsafe. You are not failing at love. This is not a sign that you chose the wrong person. Every couple that has ever loved deeply has stood exactly where you are standing right now. By the end of this video, you will understand the hidden language of avoidance. You will learn how to stop chasing, how to stop panicking, and how to create a safety so profound that he stops running and starts leaning in. Let's get into it. Most couples believe that when an avoidant partner withdraws, it means their interest is fading. They think distance equals disinterest. They think if they just try harder, text more, or demand more attention, they can bridge the gap. But the real truth is much deeper, and frankly, much more hopeful. When safety leaves a relationship, the love doesn't disappear. It goes underground. What looks like stonewalling is usually someone who has been so overwhelmed by emotional intensity that silence is the only protection they have left. Your partner's nervous system is reading you before their mind can catch up. When you pursue with anxiety, their body registers it as a threat. Not a threat from you, but a threat to their autonomy, to their sense of self. So they retreat, not to hurt you, but to regulate themselves. This is the anxious avoidant cycle. One partner needs closeness to feel safe. The other needs space to feel safe. It's not incompatibility. It's two people trying to survive the same storm in completely different ways. If you keep chasing, he keeps running. It's physics. But if you change the energy, if you become the calm in the storm rather than the storm itself, the dynamic shifts. You stop being a demand on his energy, and you start becoming a refuge for it. That is the shift. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. Here are the 5 mind games avoidants play when they are actually obsessed with you, and how to outsmart them not by playing back, but by changing the board entirely. First, let's talk about the push-pull paradox. Most couples interpret this as inconsistency. One day he's texting you constantly, planning dates, saying all the right things. The next day, radio silence, short answers, emotional ghosting. Most people react to the cold phase by panic texting, trying to fix the warmth they lost. But here's the psychological truth. For an avoidant, intimacy triggers a fear of engulfment. When things get too close, too fast, their alarm bells ring. They pull back to regain their sense of self. The cold isn't rejection, it's recalibration. They are checking to see if they can still breathe without you suffocating them. Imagine this scenario. In the disconnecting way, he hasn't replied in 6 hours. You send, "Hey, is everything okay? Did I do something?" Then another, I guess you're busy. His brain registers this as pressure. He feels trapped. He withdraws further. But in the connecting way, he goes quiet. You notice it. You feel the ping of anxiety. But you don't act on it. You go about your day. You post a story of you laughing with friends. You let the silence sit. When he finally texts, you reply warmly, but briefly. Hey, good to hear from you. I'm heading to yoga. Talk later. And when you do that, the walls between you start to come down without either of you having to say a word, because he realizes you are secure enough to let him be free. Second is the horizon illusion, or what we call future faking. Most people in relationships get dazzled by big promises. He talks about moving in together in 6 months. He mentions buying a house. He talks about meeting your parents next year. But when you ask about this weekend, he's vague. Most couples cling to the future promises to excuse the present absence. This is a defense mechanism called future faking. It allows the avoidant to feel connected to you in theory without having to deal with the vulnerability of reality. It's safe to love you in the future because the future doesn't require emotional presence today. It's a way to keep you hooked while keeping their heart protected. Listen to the difference. In the disconnecting way, he says, "We'll go to Italy next summer," but cancels dinner tonight because he's tired. You say, "Okay, as long as we're planning for Italy." You accept the breadcrumb because you're starving for the loaf. But in the connecting way, he says, "Italy next summer sounds amazing." You smile and say, "I'd love that. But I also really value our time together now. Let's figure out a night this week that works for both of us." You bring the focus back to the present, gently but firmly. That's when your partner stops feeling like a problem to manage and starts feeling like a person to come home to, because you're demanding presence, not just promises. Third, we have finding the flaw, also known as deactivation. Most couples are confused when their partner suddenly becomes critical. Out of nowhere, he's annoyed by the way you chew. He's irritated by your laugh. He picks fights about tiny, insignificant things. Most people argue back, trying to defend themselves, which only confirms his bias that this isn't working. Here's the part no one talks about. This is called deactivation. When an avoidant feels too much love, too much dependency, their subconscious mind hunts for flaws to justify pulling away. It's not that you changed. It's that his fear of intimacy spiked, and his brain is scrambling for an exit ramp. He is creating distance to lower the emotional temperature. Watch how this plays out. In the disconnecting way, he says, "You're so messy, it's driving me crazy." You snap back, "Well, you never help clean up." Now you're fighting about dishes, but you're really fighting for validation. He feels justified in his withdrawal. But in the connecting way, he says, "You're so messy." You pause. You recognize the deactivation. You don't take the bait. You say calmly, "I hear you're frustrated. I'll tidy up in a bit. But I also feel like there's some tension between us. Do you need some space right now?" You name the dynamic, not the defect. And here's what changes everything. By not fighting the flaw, you remove the justification for his withdrawal, forcing him to face the real issue, his fear of closeness. Fourth is the ghost in the room, or the phantom ex comparison. Most couples feel threatened when their partner mentions an ex, especially if the avoidant idealizes a past relationship that didn't work out due to timing. Most people compete with the ghost. They try to be better, hotter, cooler than the ex. They try to win a competition that isn't happening. The phantom ex is safe because it's over. It's a fantasy. An avoidant uses the memory of a past love to create emotional distance from the current one. It's a way to say, I am capable of love, but not with you right now, because you are real and demanding. It's not about the ex. It's about using the past to protect the present self from vulnerability. Consider this interaction. In the disconnecting way, he mentions his ex was so easygoing. You feel small. You say, well, maybe you should go back to her. Sarcasm masks your hurt. He shuts down, feeling misunderstood. But in the connecting way, he mentions his ex. You listen. You don't flinch. You say, it sounds like that relationship had a different dynamic. I'm curious, what do you feel is missing for you right now that you had then? You turn the comparison into curiosity. You invite him to articulate his needs, not his regrets. That's the shift that turns a relationship that feels like a negotiation into one that feels like a refuge, because you're no longer competing with a ghost, you're building something real. Finally, we have the crumb trail, or breadcrumbing. Most couples stay stuck because of intermittent reinforcement. He gives you just enough affection, a sweet text, a sudden hug, a nice date, to keep you hoping. But it's never consistent. Most people live for the crumbs, starving for the meal, convinced that if they just wait long enough, the feast will return. This is the most addictive pattern in psychology. When reward is unpredictable, dopamine spikes higher than when it's guaranteed. An avoidant unconsciously knows this. By giving you just enough hope, they keep you engaged without having to fully commit. It's not malicious. It's a way to keep connection alive without triggering their fear of engulfment. But it leaves you in a state of chronic anxiety. Here is the breakthrough move. In the disconnecting way, he sends a heart emoji after 3 days of silence. You reply instantly with 3 paragraphs of affection. You reward the bare minimum. He learns he can give less and get more. But in the connecting way, he sends a heart emoji after 3 days. You wait. You match his energy, not his timeline. You reply hours later simply, "Hope you're having a good week." You do not pour fuel on a spark. You wait for a fire. If he wants more, he has to build it. And when you do that, you teach him that your love is not a resource he can dip into whenever he's lonely. It's a partnership he has to show up for. This isn't a checklist. It's an invitation to show up differently. And that changes everything about what's possible between you and the person you chose. When you internalize this, you stop reacting and start responding. You stop seeing his withdrawal as a rejection of your worth and start seeing it as a signal of his fear. And your partner will feel the difference before you've even said a word. These aren't tips for a better relationship. They're the beginning of becoming the kind of partner you always wanted someone to be for you. Secure, grounded, and unshakable. Real intimacy doesn't start when you find the right person. It starts when you decide to become one.